Hello everyone, welcome to Halfway to 70, and this is the first video in a series that I'm going to make about the self-authoring suite, specifically the future authoring program, and my experience with it and the results that I've had. So, here goes.
People wish upon a star because they have some intuition that aiming above the mundane has the potential to transform themselves. They make a wish. Well, if you're going to make a wish, you should aim at something high. And even just aiming at that is more likely to make the wish come true.
The Self-Authoring Suite is a program that was devised by Jordan Peterson and his associates. It's a writing program that's split into sections, and the person that undertakes the program essentially writes about themselves, their lives, their past, their present, and their future. And the idea is this type of writing is actually thinking, it's articulating who you are, where you've come from, what you are now, who you want to be, and where you want to go in the future. The idea behind this is so that you can actually articulate those ideas, actually think about them. From my experience, when I think in my head, I sometimes think in pictures, and I sometimes think in concepts, and sometimes I think in speech. However, there's always a slight murkiness to the thoughts, and the thoughts that I have at the time, I'm fairly certain, like most things that for a human being that are in your mind, they pop in and they pop out again. There's going to be some things that you remember, and there's going to be some things that you can kind of flag and say, I really want to remember that, I really want to keep hold of that thought. But without a way of writing down or saving those thoughts, it's quite difficult to sit in your head and just articulate things for yourself. So this program allows you to do that. Before I go any further, I just want to say that I'm not an expert at the science behind this, and that you need to go and look at the resources that I've linked below and the resources that I talk about in this video to get a much better sense and understanding of what the Self-Authoring Suite and the Future Authoring Program are about. This is my experience, and this video is sort of just to kind of lay out what the program is first before I talk about my experience. However, this is just an introduction that I'm going to get things wrong in, so please do look at all the resources that I've linked to below. A further point that I'd like to add is that this type of thing can be very easily tagged as self-help, and there's nothing wrong with self-help stuff if it helps you. However, that category of resources is often seen as a kind of like a get sorted out quick or a get rich quick scheme for your life and your mind. And I would say that this is not that. This is not going to give you a system to follow to ensure that you have the most productive and amazing life. It's not going to do that. In fact, my experience with it is that you kind of do it once, and then you forget about it, but it leaves something lingering in your mind. So if you're interested in this program, understand it's going to take a lot of work, and it is difficult as well. Whether you find the writing difficult, whether you find the implementation difficult, whether you find the things that it digs up inside your mind difficult, then you need to be ready for that. So this isn't some very, very quick scheme. This is something that has real research behind it. So I've got the iPad out again, and I'm just going to read the abstract from the Writing Benefits document, which can be downloaded from the Self-Authoring Suite site. And the abstract says, careful writing about traumatic or uncertain events, past, present or future, appears to produce a variety of benefits, physiological and psychological. Written accounts of trauma positively influence health. Recent investigations have shown that the explicit written description of an ideal future produces similar results. A large body of research conducted in the industrial and business domains also demonstrates that future authoring or goal setting results in improved productivity and performance. So I mentioned about self-help earlier in the video, and I've listened to loads of different self-help programs, and I used to believe they were all charlatans, and then I started to listen to a few that were when I heard they were more grounded in psychological scientific research. And this idea of goal setting, I've done it so many times. So many times I've set goals and I haven't followed through on them. But I can tell you now, with the Future Authoring Programme, it's the one thing that's helped me to do it. And I believe that that's because that it's tapped into something very deep within me. One thing that has become very apparent to me over the past 2 years, and I think I always knew this really, was that fulfillment and happiness are two separate things. And I noticed when I was much younger, when my friends were, when they were smoking or when they were just lazing around and doing things that normal young or teenagers would do, I was incredibly bored, and I wanted to be doing something, and I always felt it was a waste of time. So I'm going to read from the iPad again, just to sort of flesh out that point about fulfillment that I was talking about. And it says that as psychologists have become increasingly well informed about the biochemical nature of emotional responses, it has become obvious that much of the positive emotion that human beings feel is a consequence of the release of the neurotransmitter dopamine, in response to evidence that satisfactory progress is being made towards desired goals. This means that it is difficult for people to experience hope and interest and engagement in the absence of well-specified goals. So what I take that to mean is that if you feel like you're moving along a path, then you'll release dopamine and it'll feel good.
In order to have any positive meaning in your life, you have to have identified a goal, and you have to be working towards it. And there is a technical reason for that. And the technical reason, as far as I can tell, is that the circuitry that produces the kind of positive emotion that people really like is only activated when you notice that when you're proceeding towards a goal that you value. And so that means that if you don't have a goal that you value, you can't have any positive emotion. So technically that's the incentive reward system, and the underlying circuitry is dopaminergic, and when that circuitry is activated, then it's part of the exploratory circuit. It gives you the sense of being actively engaged in something worthwhile.
So the Future Authoring Programme then, what do you actually do? Well, something that I find or found very painful, and that is writing. You do it on a computer because it gets saved for you, but you do a lot of writing. Now, when you're doing this writing, the advice given is to just do it without worrying about grammar or spelling. Just do it, because each section that you do is timed. And I think the idea of doing it without worrying about grammar or spelling enables you to do it kind of at the speed that you think. It allows you to get those thoughts out there. You can always go back and tidy it up at the end. In the next video in this series, what I'm going to do is go through each section and show you and talk about what I put for each section specifically. So I won't go through them here. But one thing that's very interesting is that you're asked to talk about these different areas of your life, and then you're asked to talk about the best thing that could happen in your future, and then you're asked to talk about where you don't want to end up. And there's some really interesting ideas there about you not wanting to become that idea of the worst thing that you could become, and you moving away from that, kind of orientating yourself towards the good bit or the good thing, and then going towards that. And that's something that Jordan Peterson talks about a lot. So that's a general outline of the self-authoring suite, and specifically the Future Authoring Programme. I think it's about $15, but that $15 will be some of the best money you've ever spent if you're having difficulty understanding or thinking about your future or where you want to go. If you're going to do the Future Authoring Programme, I would suggest that you book some time for yourself to do it. Maybe one day, 1 week, one day the next week, one day the week after that, and actually book yourself out in your calendar, for a couple of hours. Don't let anything distract you, because once you start, you really want to keep on going. It's a fairly lengthy process, so you want to have time to be able to complete it. So in the next video in this series, I will go through my first run of the Future Authoring Programme. We'll go through each section, I'll talk about the things that I've put in there, and I'll explain the length of time that it took me to do. It's been, I would say, the jumping off point for me, and about 18 months ago it really kicked off a journey that I'm really enjoying. So if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment and all of that, and I'll be bringing you the next video very soon. Thank you for your time. Have a good one.